Right. So, a list of topics today talk about RFK Jr. I mean, this is probably one of the biggest swings in political party affiliation that I've definitely seen in my lifetime. I mean, the Kennedys have always been the golden boys, the golden family of what it means to be
Well,
a
yeah, they're
Democrat.
they're the family of old Camelot. Okay, so when JFK became president, it was the closest thing to royalty, the American political scene. A long loved family, long involved in not only Bostonian politics but national politics. The handsome lad John ascends to the presidency. He wins the presidency. Unfortunately, as you know, he was assassinated in 63, and 5 years later, RFK Jr.'s father, Bobby Kennedy, the would also be assassinated. So, in a way, when you're looking at RFK Jr., you could almost have considered him the crown prince of the Democratic Party. And then, as you pointed out, this is monumentous because the crown prince, rejected by his own people, the way he starts an independent run, suspends that to endorse most hated former president, current presidential candidate of the Democratic Party. That would be the Republican nominee, Donald J. Trump.
Well, and not only did he endorse Trump, he's saying, I'm taking my name off the ballot in the battleground states, but I'm going to keep my name on the ballot in, the blue states to do as much harm to the Democratic Party.
And he didn't mix any words about that. He did not mince any words about that
Not
at
at
all.
all.
He literally, in his speech, he straight up told them, nope, this is what I'm doing and why. At the same time, eviscerated the entire Democratic Party as it stands now.
Right.
An actual blood Kennedy told them that they had moved so dramatically from the values that he grew up with. Keeping in mind, he grew up in the party. He was in his early teens when his dad was killed. He grew up in the party. He knows what the Democratic Party was. And they have so far removed themselves from the hereditary and, traditional values that they had, that one of their very own, one of the prominent people of the party, said no. And not only said no, endorsed their direct opponent, the biggest threat that they have. Of course, I say that in a way that they are also a threat to themselves in their dog-eat-dog world that they have there. But one of the unique things also with him was, have you noticed, and this has been pointed out by larger media groups, but they fought like bloody hell to get him off of the ballot, the Democrats did. The liberal movement, for lawfare, just the same that what they're doing to Trump and anybody else who stands in their way. But now that he's no longer a perceived threat to Comrade Kamala, they are now fighting to keep him on the ballot because they think that he is going to somehow hurt Trump and help Harris. I don't understand their train of thought.
And not only did they fight him every step of the way to get on the ballot, he had to. I think it was number was around $10 million that he had to pay for these lawsuits just to get recognized at it. And now, yeah, they're in these, and it's crazy. It's not in the it's not in a lot of the blue states. They don't really care about those, but the battleground states, they're like, no, you can't take your name off the ballot. You already got the signatures. And it's like, never has that been done in our country's history. If somebody drops out in a state, they drop out in the state. It doesn't matter what they want. If he's saying, no, I'm no longer running, and formally withdraws from that, that's just how it is.
Which is hilarious. And then when you take that into consideration that Biden dropped out and they were instantly, boom, off the ballot everywhere. And in the state of Ohio, for instance, they actually changed their law to accommodate the Democratic primary. So Biden could be put on the ticket. Yet nothing is said about removing him and installing an unelected candidate.
I mean, that's a whole nother topic on that. It was just how they can say, oh, we can't take Bobby off, but we can take Biden off. and then we can just add Kamala. Where's the lawsuits from them on adding Kamala if Bobby can't be on? And
Right.
I mean, the hypocrisy. It's like they're making up the rules as they go along.
Well,
Is what it seems
I'll
like
tell
to
you that's
me.
what they've been doing for. Well, let's put it this way: uh, of the last 16 years, that party has been in power for 12 of them,
Right.
and they are nothing if not, hypocritic or hypocrites for the matter. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. I think what we're seeing now is it's so out in the open, whereas it used to be kind of hidden.
Right.
With Clinton, with Obama, it used to be hidden. One of the things that Biden has allowed happen with the obvious cover up of mental decline, the fact that all the mainstream media, the political pundits, his own vice president was in on it, including several members of Congress. It has brought them out into the open. They realize they can't hide. Everything they do now is going to be looked at
Right.
microscopically. So they're not going to be able to hide these things. So now they're just out and about doing whatever they want to do. And us people that, are, we conservatives are looking at it, boy, this is shocking. What we're really shocked with, I think, is the fact that they're no longer hiding.
Right.
And with RFK defecting, running with We the People, and then suspending and endorsing Trump, they are now trying to defame him across the board with the whole bear thing in New York. And while crazy and kind of weird, dare I say weird, I know I'm not a member of that party where I can say that, but it's kind of weird. Um, they're scared. They realize the political punch that this is. And then when you add Tulsi Gabbard in, who just she destroyed Biden, Harris, and almost every other Democrat on the debate stage when she was running for the nomination.
Right.
And
Right.
to be fair, she literally mopped the floor with, right? And she's a big hitter. She is a lieutenant colonel in the National Guard. And one of the biggest things I think that the left fear: an intelligent, attractive, successful, strong female. They don't have that in their current candidate.
You don't think Hillary was?
She's a topic for another day, possibly another century. But when you look at Tulsi, she is everything they wanted in their presidential candidate, but somehow they buttonhole
Well,
themselves with Comrade Kamala.
that is only if they want somebody, and this is where I guess you can get into the more conspiracy theorist side of it. I think the main reason we have had Biden, and I even think Obama to an extent, and now Kamala, and not somebody like Tulsa or even Bobby on the Democratic ticket, is they want somebody they can control. There's nothing else that makes sense to me. Why have to go through the trouble of the absolute atrocious amount of censorship they've had to do on the main social media platforms, except X now, thanks to Elon. But and then trying to hide the sheer incompetence of their candidates if it wasn't for, hey, if somebody's any smarter than this, they're going to be a problem for us. We just want somebody that'll go, oh, okay, sure, let's just do, yeah, you want me to do that? Yeah, I'll do that.
And I guess it could be summated, and that's why the pandemic was so consequential for us, because it took who they already knew was in decline
Right.
and hid them away from the public eye with very controlled appearances, just like we saw with the interview with Kamala and Tim and Dana Bash from CNN. And then you're right. I think to a degree, again, without going down conspiracy rabbit holes, it does line up to something kind of fishy.
Right.
But let's see how history plays this out. But back to real quick the RFK and the momentous situation created with his endorsement, coupled with Tulsi Gabbard. And then let's not forget the Georgia governor.
Right.
That's a big one. Georgia's big for Trump. It's big
Right.
for the conservatives. We need Georgia. But, when you look at this, there's obviously something wrong with the party itself, when your high-powered people that are in office or big names that have been lifelong supporters are saying, no, you guys aren't the same people. There's a problem.
Right.
And I think the problem, obviously, to most people is the fact that they have taken such a radical turn
Right.
to straight socialism. And what fears do we have with that? You know what? We know socialism fails everywhere it's tried because it is incompatible with human behavior and human nature
Right.
because of the lack of incentive and growth. It basically kills the human spirit. And that's what we're fighting against. And I think that's why we're seeing people who still have integrity and love of the Constitution of the country from that party coming over to the party that will, again, not saying that Trump is perfect. I'm not saying that the Republican Party is perfect. I'm not saying that all conservatives are perfect. What I am saying is it's the best shot we have right now to preserving the Republic.
No, absolutely. And you look at Bobby and you go, well, okay, that is old school Democrat. Because I think there was a time in our country where nobody questioned whether or not Democrats or Republicans, or if you want to go really far back, Whigs, before the Republican Party, nobody questioned whether or not these people loved America and wanted what was best for America. There was just a different path to this shared vision that we had, what that was going to be America.
I would agree with you 100%. And let's take Bobby the Jr. in particular. We know that JFK and RFK, while morally compromised in a lot of areas, personal decisions in their marriage, maybe. There's several books and theories out there about what all really happened, but there were some morally compromising situations. One thing that can never be stated and can never be doubted is the fact that both of those men loved the United States. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Bobby Jr. Is the fact that, yeah, some decisions might not have been the best, but none of us make 100% perfect decisions.
Or especially in your young
Right.
20s,
Right.
what you get into.
And then again, you see a person who loves his country.
Right.
Stepping aside from what is destroying his country to support the people who love the country.
And that's my point. You have, in the time of, JFK and stuff, nobody questioned that him as a Democrat didn't love America. Yet now you see this situation where it literally feels and looks, and I think that the evidence points to where you have certain people, especially whether it be deep state or the figures behind the curtains of the Democratic Party, are actively trying to destroy what has always been America and what America was meant to be for some type of, and I think it ties into the whole globalism, one world order type thing, because America,
100%
the ideals that was America is the biggest threat to any type of globalism in the world today. And me personally, Jared, I don't even think that the America we have today is actually as free and as people think it is.
Without a doubt. No, you have mainstream media censorship. They will push a biased narrative to whatever their handlers and their money is telling the push.
And that's on both sides.
That is on both sides.
Heavily on both sides.
You'll find that on the far right and on the far left. Finding true reporting and journalism, if you can, is going to be extremely rare, and it's a diamond in the rough. If we find it, hold on to it. As long as they don't,
and save it on a flash drive, because it's probably not going to be around long. It's going to go.
But no, you're absolutely right. The freedoms of today are definitely not what the founders, I believe, intended in our Declaration and our Constitution at their writings. Well, case in point, back to Bobby. Look at the media bias against him. He was denied ballot access. We both have friends in third parties. That ballot access has been a big issue.
Right.
They don't give him any airtime on the news. Yet as soon as he makes this announcement, they are falling over themselves to get his sister in a one-on-one interview to bash him and say how horrible he is. His whole family denounced the man over love of country.
Right.
So that's how incestuous and insidious this movement is. And yes, I do agree 100% that this is part of a bigger agenda. And the reason I say isn't just because of our current situation in America. It's happening in Britain. It's happening in France.
Right.
It's happening in Germany. Well, nobody really knows what's going on in China and Russia because it's just a world of deceit over there anyhow right now. But we're seeing it on a larger scale.
Right.
And that's why I would agree that, yes, it's more of a push towards a one world government or a centralized government, which centralized government leads, obviously, to centralized economies, which is centralized planning, which is socialism.
Right.
Right. So, and I do think that, the people in power want to stay in power. The best way to do that is to make sure nobody else can get the power.
Right. And then,
So,
I mean, if you look throughout history, and I think Bobby hit this point perfectly on when he was on with Tucker, that if you look throughout history, anybody that was involved in any type of censorship of any type, whether it be lies or the truth, whatever, censorship, they were always, every single time. Censorship has never been, if your ideals can't stand on their own merit, there's the problem in and of itself. If you have to silence somebody else because to make your opinion the only one there, then there's something deeper
so
behind that.
we have the censorship thing, yes, but also they've taken a playbook right out of Joseph Goebbels.
Mhm.
He was the chief propagandist, as you may well know, from the Third Reich, from the Nazi Party, World War II. Paraphrasing, mind you, but his whole concept was if you can repeat a lie long enough and hold it as truth long enough, that people will believe it. And
Oh yeah,
and the truth is the biggest and toughest enemy of the state
right.
that they were in, because if the truth came out about what they were doing to the Jews, to the LGBT community of the time, to various groups that opposed or had
Or
different
just
feelings,
any other party
any
other
other
than
party,
there.
right, anything that stood up against them would be liquidated, killed, imprisoned, put in a concentration camp, or in the early days, yes, they deported a lot to other countries to be handled later.
Right.
But, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're repeating lie after lie after lie, uh, to where people are truly believing it. They are literally telling us, we did not hear what we heard, we did not see what we saw, and people are going along with it. They're going to erase the fact that they hid the mental decline of Joe Biden. They're going to hide all of the history of the failed prosecutor that is Comrade Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to wash up Tim Walz, her running mate, which I have never seen lies of this level. Like, he will literally show a recording of him spouting off about how he served in war. He will not address it. In the interview with Dana Bash, he was asked about that, and he skirted all around the question about being proud of his service and how he wore the uniform for 24 years. Okay, be proud of your service. I am proud of every honorable serviceman and woman of this nation. I am proud that they are brother and sister American,
Right.
and I thank them greatly. But the man was caught in a lie, and just not that lie. He was caught in multiple lies,
Right.
and it's like, is he capable of telling the truth? I doubt it. Is he so ingrained? And has he Joseph Goebbels himself, has he lied so much about himself that he doesn't even know what the
Well,
truth is about himself anymore?
there's studies actually proving that, people who are pathological liars, or I don't even want to call people pathological liars, but if people are fed a lie enough, or you speak a lie enough yourself, you will actually start to believe it. If you for 10 years said, "Hey, that fish was a foot long," so long, that will start to become your own truth. And I think that's why, even, in therapy and stuff like that, there's always, your words have power. Speak good things constantly, speak good about yourself, and reassuring things, and that starts to become your reality and your truth. And I think that's even biblical to an extent.
The truth, yes.
So if it's true in a good sense, it's definitely going to have, it can be true in the opposite effect. If you just keep on repeating a lie over and over and over again, it'll become your truth, and the actual truth will then become an enemy of, or an attack rather, on your core belief system. And I think that's why so many of, you see a lot of stuff on social media, on campuses and stuff, with a lot of the transgender movement, of these people getting so worked up and, acting like you're attacking. Oh, this is hate speech. This is actually an attack on me. It's violence against me, because that's become their identity, and anything that
I get it.
goes against that, it threatens who they are as a person. Regardless, you take truth or lie out of it, it becomes an attack on who they are, and they can't come to terms with the fact that, hey, what I am so passionate about is a lie. So you take Kamala, or Tim Walz, their whole political careers have been, around being told, that I'm sure Kamala and the people around her, they've been telling her that she's been the best thing since Jesus. She's better than
about
Biden.
that. I don't know about that because her turnover in her little house of socialism there has been relatively high. They may be telling her exactly what she doesn't want to hear, and that's why they're gone. I mean, as
I
vice
question
president,
if she has anything to do with, or any control over what's around her. Honestly,
perhaps
if she's a
that could be it.
she
But
can't string a coherent sentence
well,
together.
one of the things was, as the vice president, I think it was reported like she had like 92% turnover since the term started. That's like not 100, but darn near close. There's
Right.
8% off. That's like pretty much a whole staff. What did she keep? Like, the toilet paper changer and, in Annapolis? What did she keep? I don't know.
I've seen better numbers than the food industry.
Right.
Like,
Right. And then, and all of this put together, though, when talking about Bobby and what this means, it's momentous. Why is it, monumentous that we have a Kennedy in our camp? Keep in mind, they're trying lawfare again, both on Trump and Kennedy again. The Lincoln Project, that group of, has been Republicans that decided to turncoat and leave the Constitution clearly in the dust while saying that they support it, have now asked the DOJ to investigate because they feel that a particular office or something was promised him to leave the campaign and endorse, which, yes, is a violation, but I don't think that's really the case. I think this was a storm brewing well before the actual announcement was made because of the treatment of Bobby Kennedy. But
right.
more on that in just a second. This is monumentous because the Harris campaign, the socialist movement inside the Democratic Party, has made this, you call it a campaign, I call it more like a production.
Right.
They have pointed as a joyous thing. We are going to be unified. We're going to be joyful. Well, first off, the DNC, they said, this is the candidate of joy. She's going to be the president of joy. And even Oprah Winfrey belted out, I think she said joy. I could be wrong, but it sounded like she shouted
Right.
joy in some quasi-operatic craziness. But the entire lineup of all 4 days, having watched it, so you didn't have to, nobody else had to. I'm still in that from Clay and Buck on 610 here in Ohio. I'm watching it because so you don't have to. Every single speaker was hostile, full of angst, anger, division. There's nothing joyful there. And the threat that this poses is this shows true unity with Bobby, with Tulsi,
Mm-hmm.
with Kemp, with Trump,
Right.
all of them. It shows what actual joy is. There's joy, and we've talked about this before, and I stated, true joy is only found when people live fully the promises of our Constitution. There will never be joy in their movement because they want our Constitution destroyed and something new put in its place that offers no freedoms. We aren't living fully, completely now the promises of our Constitution and our God-given rights. But
Right.
we're darn sight better now than we would be under a Harris and Walz administration under the socialist regime. And that's why it's monumentous. There was a breakaway, a key breakaway.
Absolutely.
And with him will come every single Kennedy-style Democrat, moderate Democrat that says, no, we don't want that. We want that they have. Because let's face it, his uncle, his father, JFK, RFK, Bill Clinton couldn't even get elected in the Democratic Party as it is today.
No.
It is so, they are so far removed from what they are to what they were. And that's why it's such a big deal. They unified their threat. And that's what they've been doing ever since they've been empowered. These 12 years of power out of the last 16. It's been division because they know if we actually unify, we're going to be unstoppable. And that's why it's a big deal.
Well, and you saw that very clearly during COVID when people started rallying together, questioning the science that Fauci was putting out.
Oh, he is science over. He is science.
He is science, right? Even he can contradict himself all the time. But when it didn't matter if you were Republican, Democrat, your race, whatever, everybody was like, hey, this isn't adding up. Something's going on. And then what happened? Good. What's the old
the narrative? A break in the narrative. We have to
Right.
We have to redirect their attention.
Right. Well, what's the old the SpongeBob cartoon? Old reliable. He pulls out a spatula. That's the race. The old divide the country, get them in a race war, and what the country was on fire for like it was horrible.
You see it now, even with the current production that is the Harris Walls campaign, always pulling up the fact that she's a black woman or a black Indian woman or whatever whatever they want to coin her at that moment. And while they will deny it, and now anybody who sees this podcast is I'm going to be a racist and a misogynist. Listen, I don't really care whether she identifies as black, Indian, multiracial. I sure as don't care whether she's a woman. None of this, in truth, ever really matters. Do you have the skills and the talent to do this job to protect our nation, to enforce our Constitution, fix our borders, get the job done, fix our economy, fix our borders, handle crime,
and
get these Venezuelan chains out, get these Venezuelan gangs out of here? Do you have the ability to do this? Well, let's look at the histories. Trump tried and succeeded in a lot of ways. However, he was constantly barraged with impeachments,
which no president in our country's history has ever had to deal with what he dealt with. The fact that he did anything during his 4 years was just showed his resolve, in my opinion.
And so, we have this going on with him. We know his history, the actual history, not the manufactured history of him being whatever they want to call him on the other side. But then, in truth, we have her history as well, as a failed prosecutor who had donated money to the Minnesota pre-fund of the Free Minnesota Fund, basically during the George Floyd riots, as Tim Walz and Gwen Walz sat there like, the Emperor Nero and his wife watching Rome burn. They watched Minneapolis burn. The third precinct police officers have to run for their lives while these people were arrested. These protesters or Billy rioters were arrested. This fund that she supported and funded helped get these people right out of jail. The very people that would destroy a city were made to go free. Yet we have grandmas who are praying out in front of abortion clinics being imprisoned. And it's the right thing to do. So yeah, her history, Tim and Kamala are correct. Their record speaks for itself, and it's garbage.
Well, that's one real unique thing about this election, because it's not often, if it's ever happened, where you have a track record, something you can look at, because that's what's always scary about any type of election, especially nowadays, because you find anybody will say anything to get a vote, right?
Oh.
All campaign promises, and then people do a complete 180 on their beliefs, their core beliefs, not even just little things. But you literally have a track record of how Trump was as president, and you have Kamala as a prosecutor, and then as VP. What has she done?
Prosecutor, senator. And more to your point earlier, you said that, she got her start in politics under scrutiny. Yeah. She had an affair with a married dude. Yeah. Her entire record is not good. I can't repeat exactly what the president said in his rally last night because of the profanity, but everything she touches turns to crap.
Right.
Everything she has done has been negative. Everything she has promised to do involves some kind of disproportionate, unequal racial motive or gender motive. She looks at these classes of people and she identifies them as classes. She doesn't look at us as collectively as human beings, whether you be black, white, immigrant with naturalization status, man, woman. She doesn't see that. She sees cliques. Why? And I agree with Donald J. Trump on this 100%. She truly does not care as long as she stays in power. She does not
Right.
give a single iota of concern to any American in particular, outside maybe her immediate family. I don't know. I'm not going to say she's a poor family person. Her husband and stepdaughter seem to love her. Great. But on the national level, that's great for you. I'm glad that your family love you, but you're not the person we need at this time, or possibly even ever.
Yeah, I'd argue if we ever need.
Yeah, but you know, what we need is the candidate who's going to fix the borders, fix the economy, get rid of crime. And that all does come back to a huge issue of the illegal immigration situation.
Right.
But again, Bobby, Tulsi, as a conservative in the United States, personally, I would like to thank you for your support of Donald J. Trump. Stay strong. It's going to get uglier as we get to closer to November. I think that this is a huge turning point for nation and for the GOP. You know, there's a lot to be said for what the MAGA movement has been doing inside the GOP and why it has become attractive to people like Bobby.
Well, and that's it's really interesting. If you watch all of Trump's, rallies, all his speeches, he never, when he refers to his following, his support, he never refers to it as the Republican Party. It's always our movement, which is the MAGA movement, our movement, which begs the question, and I point out when he lost, and I was lost the last election, the Republican Party abandoned him. They ridiculed him. People that I know in politics are trashed him, denounced him, rejected him, the whole thing. They just wanted nothing to do with him. And then all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, he's come back stronger than ever. All aboard the Trump train, right? And now they're singing his praise. I think I'm going to predict there's going to be one of two things that's going to happen with this. Either the MAGA movement is going to completely take over the Republican Party, and it's essentially going to be gutted and reworked, because what we spent a lot of time talking about what the Democratic Party was versus what it is and the changes. There's been a lot of similar stuff, just in different directions with Republican Party. I'm just as much of a critic for the Republican Party as the Democrats, because they say they hold themselves to a higher standard, but in a lot of areas they fall short as well. But so that's first. Either they're going to take over the Republican Party, or you're going to see what happened with the Republican Party and the Whigs well before both of our time, where you're going to see a new third party come up, which people could say a much more viable third party, and you're going to see just like because people forget the Republican Party was the original third party.
Well, you know, and people also are blinded to the fact that the American political system never stated that we're a two-party system. That's something we just kind of adopted. There is no rule. There is no law stating that we're a two-party system. So the concept that third parties are outlandish and, quoting Tim Walz, weird, is false. Yeah, honestly, I'd much rather see multiple parties field viable candidates to give us a true selection of great ideas and thoughts.
And then you would have a lot more coalitions on certain key issues that are more pertinent to the time that you're in. Like now you have more border security, wars, economy, inflation, all those things.
Your idea, and I know we've talked about this offline, the idea of the MAGA movement either gutting and rehabbing the GOP or becoming its own entity is compelling. I said this to you before. Yes, it's a wonderful idea either way, because you're really going to trim the fat off the steak, so to say, right?
Right.
Is it possible that the same thing happens in the Democrat Party? Can the radicals, your AOCs and stuff, do you think that they would defect from the Democratic Party to create a Democratic Socialist Party? Now, I know that we have them here in the United States.
Right.
We have some self-availed Democrat Socialists serving in various ranks of government, even up to Congress. There's a few of them.
Right.
Do you think that that could be a thing? Could we, at some point, do you believe see an actual four-party system where we have the conservatives, the the socios, and the socialists? Your moderates, and then your hardcores. And I wouldn't even say MAGA is truly what they have been coined alt-right or extreme right. I think honestly, as I support the movement personally, I don't see extremism. I see, if anything is extreme in the MAGA movement, I think their love for country, their love of Constitution, their love of freedom, their love of liberty is as extreme as they get. Is that truly extreme when in fact that's what our country was actually founded on?
Right. Well, and that's as far as the Democratic Party. I always, I already think that the Democratic Party is more of the party of socialism and what they push. And you can see that in the policies, the way they talk, what they think is
And would
right
that,
and wrong.
in your opinion, then that would lead to the defections we're seeing of like long-served Democrats kind
Well,
of
that's
fading away?
from Tulsa to Bobby, and this is why I lean more towards on the Republican side there being the birth of a new third party, because it would be a lot more healing. Because the MAGA movement will follow. If Trump announced tomorrow that they're or that they're doing a third party, there would already be overwhelming
Well,
support
that
from
was
the.
back in the 2020, 2019, 18 era. They were kind of starting that. I remember seeing the logo of the red, white, blue lion. I forget
Right.
what they called themselves now, but there was a kind of a push
There was a little bit
that
of.
way. But I
But
think
if you take the more old school Democrats, the Tulsas, the RFK Juniors, it would be a lot more appealing for them, in my opinion, if there was a third party. So, because I think it would be a lot harder for them to fully go, okay, I'm joining the Republican Party. Then, hey, I don't agree with you on everything, Trump, but what you on the key issues, and I'll just say exactly what Bobby said on the key issues, we are in agreement on. And if you start a new party based off that, it'll be a lot more. It'll look a lot better, and there'll be a lot more of the old school Democratic, more moderate Democrats being okay. I can get on board with this. I think there's too much bad blood over the decades between Democrats and Republicans to just think that because there's a reason why moderate Democrats still predominantly vote Democrat no matter what. It's because of that. And honestly, a lot of it, like the Bushes, they didn't do any good for you know, and that's what one thing that Trump's been preaching, and he did it at the RNC, was unity. It doesn't matter. It's not about party affiliation. It's about unity now, and it's
well,
the most
that
important
is true.
thing.
But it's funny that the message of unity is coming from Trump because let's be honest, it's not even that. Some of the more feckless Republicans hate the Constitution, hate America, or even hate their party. They hate Donald J. Trump.
Well, that was the
It's
whole last election. It was
well,
the
even
not
this
Trump
one.
election, and it's in this one too.
It's not even so much that they don't like the policies. Hell, you could talk to anyone supporting Harris right now, and very few of them can point out a policy she has that's better than Trump's or any of Trump's policies that they exclusively dislike. Matter of fact, on a blind taste test, if you will, they like what Trump has going on.
Right.
They just don't like the man. The movement against him is what it is. It's not a movement against, in a wild sense, on the topical end against his policies. They don't like him. They like the policies, just not him. But now, because they get that groundswell, that's where we start seeing the dangerous types moving into power.
Right.
Because they have blinded them to the true policy end of it, to just hating the person.
Well, and that's really interesting. And I haven't heard this talked about, but it's one thing I've noticed before Trump got into politics, and this shows you the power of social media, of news, and everything. They can praise or demonize whoever they please, and can get the public to rally around it. Because before Trump ever got into politics, he was adored by capitalists, Democrats alike.
And at the time,
and
he was a registered.
scattered.
He was a registered Democrat at the time. He donated to various campaigns, the Clinton campaign,
Right.
Bill Clinton.
And they didn't care about his history in his younger years then, it was never talked about. It was never, this is a horrible man, this is a womanizer, this is that, taxes and this and that. He was technically, he is part of the was part of the problem that they claim to have with the wealthy elite. And so is Soros, Bezos, a lot of these wealthy that they say, oh, tax the wealthy, tax them as much as you can, yet they're praising the people that they say they hate. Trump fell into the same category, but as soon as he crossed the line of the one thing that set Trump apart is his love for country. So as soon as he crossed that line as, okay, I'm going to turn this political, my ideals, man, I can't run on the Democratic ticket at all. The media, social media, the agenda was put out there immediately. And it turned on him like that.
You know, it's funny you should bring that up because, you know, I was just watching some videos of him, Donald Trump, on like Letterman back in the 80s, well, before your time. But at the time, I didn't care much either. I was being born in 82. I didn't really have a lot of, you know, I just remember, hey, Letterman's funny and he has Jack Hanna on from the Columbus Zoo every now and again, and it's fun.
Right.
But looking back at those videos now, he had been preaching the same thing since like 88, 87, 88. There is a huge movement away from the Constitution, away from the way America is. He's been saying the same thing. I really don't know what the final straw was to make him run for president, to espouse what is now the MAGA movement. Although the founder and kind of creator of it, it takes a village sometimes. It wasn't just the brainchild of Donald J. Trump. There was a lot of people involved. We can safely say that. I don't know what the moment was that destroyed the dam holding him back. I really don't know what that is. I think it's a several items over the decades that he finally just had enough. I don't know what the one moment he really, really decided this is what's going to happen. I can tell you I'm very thankful it did. I think that the MAGA movement is something that has been needed. I would say definitely since 05, 06, 07, around there. I think damage is done by the Obama administration was a catalyst for a lot of the sufferings we have now economically. Trump kind of threw a wrench in there. The 4 years he was in, from 16 to 20, it was supposed to be Hillary. But we kind of put a pause on some things. That's why this administration, if you want to call it that, the Biden administration, and what they're trying to do now with Walls-Harris or Harris-Walls, whichever, they're interchangeable, both kind of useless in the world of, truth. It's accelerated. It's on high speed. It's on high gear. It's like if you're a Spaceballs fan, they've hit ludicrous speed, right? They went mad on the speed of which they are trying to enforce bad policy and socialize us. And oddly enough, and I think it wildly is because of the MAGA movement, the way lawfare has been enacted against him, Donald Trump, as an individual and as a president to impeach. I think that has kind of stymied their initiative on the left because the people are seeing it. They're seeing the lawfare.
Right.
And some fully support it, let's be honest. There are some that just want to see him put in prison, put away forever. We get that. But with the lawfare, for instance, Jack Smith, second indictment on the same darn crimes. All he really did was use timing, because now they can talk about, Jan 6 again, right?
Right.
But it's the same allegations. But what they did is, instead of saying President Trump is candidate Trump, let's pretend for that, particular day, he was not the sitting president. And these were private actions of a citizen, not official actions of a president. First off, I have not seen one damn piece of evidence that said that he did anything wrong. Secondly, we don't know what the grand jury saw for the second indictment. What exculpatory evidence has been left out that they did not see that could even possibly prove innocence? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's to the fact that he told people to be peaceful.
Right.
He said, we're going to peacefully march down to the Capitol and have our voices heard. The fact that, there's a recording of Nancy Pelosi possibly in between sippy cups of vodka saying, hey, I own that. That was really my doing. Are we going to hide the fact that we had several, National Guard troops in a parking garage watching this unfold, but Capitol Police didn't make a call? Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker of the House at the time, had full responsibility over the safety and security of the Capitol, and then say, "Yeah, Don, send them in. We need help."
Right.
Are we going to not see the videos that have been broadcast all over the place of the security of the Capitol Police directing people and talking to them?
Yeah, come on in, come
And-
look around, make
and-
yourself at home. It's the people's
Yeah,
anyway,
and,
right?
And the errant shot, dedicated really, that killed the young lady.
Right.
He wasn't even facing the officer who shot her. I mean, that. Why isn't that being investigated? That's the thing.
Who was a vet as well.
Yeah, but who? Why aren't we here? I'm not a legal expert, but what I do know is it's hard to say that somebody is being aggressive towards me when their back's toward me.
Well,
Shooting through.
that's common sense. That's common sense, and that's not.
Why isn't this being talked? But yet Jack Smith actually has the lower region fortitude to throw a second indictment out. Now, I will contend that this is solely for timing, so Jan 6 becomes part of the narrative coming up to the back end of the election season.
Right.
That's all it really is. Honestly, I don't even necessarily believe that he has any real expectation this is even going to try or the light of day, but it creates another talking point because honestly,
well, they're running out.
Well, they don't have any to begin with. I mean, Walz and Harris have no real policy that hasn't been stolen from Donald J. Trump.
Right.
And every policy they put forth on their own reeks so bad of socialism, they can't dare let it see the light of day unless it's, a little Facebook quip there or misreporting an accidental truth from mainstream media. So they need something to run on. And
Well,
they can't
it goes
they
back
have
to
run on.
my point about the whole George Floyd, COVID thing, distraction
Right.
technique of, well, hey, this is really not going our way. We're looking really bad. And I don't even think they can play the race card on this one because Trump has historical numbers of support in the Black and Latino communities,
Well,
even more so back than he did previously.
Even right now, as we speak, on August 31st, 2024, white men, black men love themselves some Trump.
Oh, absolutely.
Now the Harris announcement and her, coronation as, Queen Twit of the Democratic Party as their nominee. Yeah, it took some of our women, and there is seemingly a slight situation with suburban women with Trump, and I don't know. I honestly believe that might be kind of like they view him kind of as a bully. Right. Now they will say that his stance on abortion and his stance on this and this and that. Listen, there's a simple way to solve that argument. Roe v. Wade was wrong. It gave too much federal authority to the situation. It should have never been taken out of the state's hand. That way each state can be responsible for the care of their own people.
Right.
That's all it did. The overturn didn't do, obviously the overturn of Roe v. Wade didn't do jack because there were 33% more abortions post return to the states.
Right.
And states like Ohio, right now, Ohio is its open season on unborn babies.
Right.
And there's several other states. California, I don't even think there's a restriction one. I mean, I heard a rumor, now this is what I've heard, that they're trying to pass legislation to where the baby can even be born, then it can decide to do whatever needs to be done after the fact.
After birth, right.
Yeah. So
and that's going against their argument that the vaginal canal magically grants life, right?
Right.
So
absolutely. And so, I haven't independently vetted that being a fact there. I will look into it in our next episode. I'll let you know what I find. But if that is a fact, then, there's people saying, oh, he got rid of Roe v. Wade. What the hell did it matter?
Right.
If we handed it back to the states and the states basically say you can line them up and, execute them anyhow, what the hell does it matter whether Roe v. Wade was there? So that takes their talking point away. And then, of course, they're so joyful and everything. Why does everything with them end in death and destruction? If they are so damn happy, why does everything have to be either censored, silenced, or killed?
Well, and I would argue that any, left-run city, county, town, whatever has been, run by the left for any long period of time, or the ones you see on the news at night with all the problems.
Aurora, Colorado. The Venezuelan, I don't even know how to say their names. There's some gang from Venezuela, literally went through Gestapo style and took over an apartment complex. From what I understand, multiple complexes, a typical lower income housing.
Mm-hmm.
Literally knocking on the door, gunpoint, you owe us money or you're going to get out or get hurt,
Right.
And after media pressure and media covering it, The governor finally decided to do something. The mayor finally decided to do something. My hometown of Columbus, Ohio, where I was born. They got a mayor down there. They had an epic data breach into their government services computer bank. Policemen, firemen, city employees, anybody who's paid a parking ticket, all of their information on the dark web. And every couple of days you get an update. It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. It's gotten worse. People are losing money, getting, their identity stolen. And then outside of that, crime is running rampant in the, more urban areas as well as the downtown areas. And it's spreading out into, the smaller communities that surround the big city. And we're seeing that in Ohio, for instance. I know a lot about Ohio. I'm from there. You have Cuyahoga, Hamilton, and Franklin counties. Those are the three big counties. When you look at the layout of the voting, they always have the little blue dots and red dots during election season. You'll see Cuyahoga bright blue. You'll see Franklin in the center, bright blue. Hamilton down south, bright blue. And a sea of red in the rural areas. Right. And what you see is too, wherever you see the left in charge for any duration of time, that's where we see these problems. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that your assessment of MAGA is correct. That it's either going to revolutionize the Republican Party or become its own party because people want law and order. Because in that law and order, we can enforce our constitutional rights and we find the true joy there. And I believe that with people like RFK and Tulsi Gabbard, and some will probably jump ship and come over, and some of the smaller actors have already have, that is proving that there is a joyous moment in the MAGA movement because we're unifying, we're offering the true freedoms that are inherent in our Constitution. And, for anybody that's going to watch this, and I know our friends that already know us, read the Constitution. Because, just not from an education point of view, people need to learn how to write and speak like that again. I'm telling you, it is a literary work of beauty. And what's in there will blow people's socks off. When you look at America and what it's supposed to be, you'll see, whoa, what the hell's going on? Where
did the heart and the passion go?
Well, that, and just down to what government is, just down to what the Constitution is.
Evil.
Well, what does the Constitution, what does it do? I've heard, I want to say, Trey, it was probably a year ago, actually, standing in this very room that we're in. I was watching some Goomba on TikTok, and she was saying, "Oh, well, can't the Constitution just be burned already? It's so useless." These buffoons have no idea that the Constitution doesn't tell us what we can and can't do. It tells government what it can't do to us.
Right.
It's a safeguard, and that's why the left hates it. That's why
it's our teeth to do something about it when they overstep.
Well, only if we give it the strength to do so. Only if we provide the teeth. See, it's not. I'm going to solve all your problems. It says I'm going to empower you to solve all your problems if you have the lower fortitude so to do.
And you're exactly right. The Constitution is a living and breathing document. It empowers the people to defend the Constitution. If the people aren't defending the Constitution, then that person was right. It is a dead document. You might as well burn it because it has no use.
Right.
And I think that's part of that globalism agenda is to make people feel like they can't do anything about it. They don't have it.
Well, yeah, well, that in the vision, because that's where that feeling of separation, that feeling of hopelessness comes from, is when you truly divide people, right? And they don't even, most of these, God bless them, or as they say in the South, bless their hearts, they don't even really know why we're divided. They've been told it's race. Well, no, because honestly, I don't give a crap what color you are. Are you going to support the Constitution and do your best for the nation and your family? What are your values? Right? That's what it's based on. And here's the thing. Values are amazing. They're colorblind. They're gender blind. They're religion blind. They don't give a crap. What are your values? Do you love your nation? Do you want to see America, the United States, succeed? Do you want the most liberties for the people possible? Do you want the smallest government possible? Do you want our troops home and safe to defend us, not get involved in crazy wars all over the world? Right. And yeah, I'm not saying I don't support our allies. We have a mutual friend who differs from me on my view on Israel. I don't necessarily want boots on the ground in Israel of our American troops. But what I do say is that we need to support them as much as law would allow to a degree to make sure, hey, you know, they are a strong foothold for us.
Well, and there's a difference between supporting an ally and funding proxy wars.
Right.
There's a huge difference in those.
I don't agree with funding, but we should have we have an obligation
especially
to
when
certain
we
levels of
have
support.
turmoil at home.
Right. Absolutely. When the
America
country's like this,
first is,
right.
is
Absolutely.
the
When,
rally
when,
cry
when
now.
in a situation like this, in election season, we should have no hand in any foreign element right now.
Right.
All hands on deck for the United States.
Right.
Every soldier, every civilian, every, legal voter, get out and vote, guys. Every legal voter. Absolutely. In times of turmoil and duress, and here lately, every election cycle is a time of distress.
Right.
Truth be told, I would dare say, I'm not a political or a government official, I would say we should be in a state of emergency because of the border situation, because of the drug situation, and because of the chance of civil unrest because of what the left has done to the political scene in our country.
No, absolutely. Well, and what's the big thing that sets aside, you take away aside from the freedom and stuff like that, one of the main things, in my opinion, that sets America apart from other countries is our middle class. It has been, you've seen in the past, especially the past 4 years, but since Obama got in the office, rapidly the middle class has been made in America. It's been reduced. I mean, if you I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but it was insane for the middle class to be the same middle class that was back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. We would be making this in a year.
Oh,
I mean, the middle class has been shrinking and becoming non-existent.
Well, again, by design.
Right.
I mean, it's like it or not, we're all players in a giant theatrical disaster right now, right?
Right.
We're all sitting here. We know what the answer is to all the problems.
Right.
A strict adherence to the United States Constitution. We the people have the teeth to fix this by putting our leaders in play. We have to fight this. Now, I'm not condoning swords in the street right now. What I'm saying is we need to educate our neighbors. We need very vocal in the fact that, hey, what's going on is a socialist grab. You think it's going to be good and you're going to go to the vote box and vote for your little Harris or Walls or whatever, whoever is the candidate by the time election day comes. No, it's a lot deeper. And that's what people aren't seeing. It's a lot deeper that this money grab is designed to keep us in our place.
Right.
To make us reliant on big government. And we have to stand and send a resounding no.
Because it takes people actually speaking up and people showing up at the
they have to vote.
Voting booth.
They have to vote. And like myself, why I am not necessarily a Republican. I'm a conservative. Right. I'm a conservative. I love the Constitution. I am there is a difference between a constitutionalist and a constitution. We'll get into that later. But I enrolled as a GOP poll watcher. Why? Because there was an opening, there's a need, and honestly, that's one of the smaller things people can do. Get involved in your local elections. Become a poll worker, become a poll watcher. Fight that battle there. Fight those small battles, and then, the war can be won by many small victories. I am not 100% certain across the 50 states we're going to have the most secure election. I think Ohio's kind of stepped it up. Texas has stepped it up. Some of the Arizona's definitely stepped it up.
Oh yeah.
We got 50 states that we got to watch. Some are just write-offs. We already know California. God bless Northern California. There's a little bit of sense up there, but that's also the more rustic area. That's where you have that's the beautiful end of Cali. They can keep the big cities, but the beauty end of California. There's some good mines up there, but there are certain write-offs we already know.
Well, they're quickly. There's been a lot of them leaving and going to like Texas,
into middle America.
Yep.
The flyover states. Yeah.
Right.
But that's the thing is anybody listening or caring to listen, we need to get involved, and that's one of the easiest things to do is get involved with the actual polling. You find a conservative candidate out there, spend a Saturday with your husband, wife, or even your older kids, knock on a few doors, hand out some literature. People aren't going to, in the climate now, people aren't going to go seeking it themselves. They're afraid. And I get being afraid. I mean, some of these people are absolutely deranged. I mean, they call for peace and love, and we're the party of understanding and tolerance. My left, no, no. They are perfectly happy with blood in the streets, my friend. And that's what we have to fight against. And in summation, for the day, I think that what we are looking at is a magnificent show of unity and strength with Tulsi, with RFK joining the MAGA movement. My personal belief is, yes, we are facing a very dark socialistic regime if we lose, and people like us won't be. We aren't safe. We aren't safe at all. We really have to stay vigilant,
Absolutely.
stay vocal, stay true, and that would
Keep
be
having conversation. When conversation goes away, that's when violence is
and
shortly to follow.
Yeah, and that's the thing is the amendments. People say, well, the Second Amendment is the teeth of the Constitution. Well, actually, the First Amendment is.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to speak. You have to be able to be heard. Whether what you say is appreciated or not, it's a whole other ballgame. But you have the right to say it.
Well, the way it didn't the birth of our country didn't start at the end of a musket. It started with stuff like.
It started with a conversation. It started with an idea.
Right.
And now they even want to, even you post a thought or issue a thought. Say, hey, I was thinking. That's enough to get you in trouble with. It's like the thought police. There was a show. For the love of me, I can't remember the name. It comes with age, you see, Trey. This is what you have to look forward to. No, but I forget the name of the movie, but it was basically, the police would arrest you just because in the future you may commit a crime.
Oh, Minority Report.
Thank you. I don't know how I forgot that.
Yeah.
But like I said, again, it's a blessing of age.
Pre-crime is what they call it.
And we're actually kind of living that now. I mean,
in a sense, isn't it crazy that we have?
Oh, you may do this, so we're going to, detain you.
Minority Report, and one that was really scary for me, especially during COVID. V for Vendetta.
The Purge.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the Purge.
Yeah, all this
is
stuff.
This what's happening? Oh
and
my!
We'll
God.
have to do a whole episode on how Hollywood has, and this will raise some eyebrows, has conditioned people to view things as fiction because they saw it in the movies. It can't be real. That's in the movies, right? So we'll have to do an episode on that.
There was the movie Pandemic, and before that was Outbreak. Pandemic actually went into, well, they're doing shutdowns, they're doing this, and this was global. That was what few years, I would say maybe 5+ years before the actual pandemic, but it kind of set the stage. Like, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be turmoil. There's going to be cards you have to carry, and then it was a bracelet that they had to wear if they were vaccinated or carriers or hosts, whatever,
right?
That would be scanned, and it was absolutely disastrous. Not entirely unlike the COVID-19 pandemic was handled here. That's again.
Well, it was mild, very mild in the U.S. As unconstitutional as it was so mild compared to a lot of other countries like France, China. I know people over in China.
I heard reports, and maybe they can verify if you can communicate with them before our next episode. I had heard that they were actually barricading people in their homes.
Oh, no, I can tell you right now.
That they were actually welding like rebar and stuff so they could not exit their own home.
You could get food dropped off to you, and there were literally, if you did, they were around. And they were concentration camps is what it was. I mean, it was full blown.
It's almost like what Cuomo did out in New York. I mean, his camps and stuff that he had set up in Central Park, and
oh my gosh, how that's a perfect example of how fear.
I would contend that was part of the experiment.
Well, yeah,
what can we get away with? How much can we censor?
I think there's not a lot of people, at least critical thinkers. There's not a lot of people that have that critical thinking skill that don't think that there was this was a test to see what they could get away with. How pushy can you be? I mean, me and my own home dad, I couldn't take my boys to a park that was empty and shoot hoops, just me and him, without getting threatened by the police or the park rangers that you're not allowed to be here. That I they just took basketball hoops off.
I remember it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the lockdown, if you will, or basically the involuntary detainment. I was walking my dog around the block. I mean, it's my dog. You need to go out, use the restroom. That's kind of what you do with dogs. I live in a communal area. I live in an apartment. I don't have my own private yard. I can just let him, run free. I was walking around the block. As walking around the block, I did not have my mask on. Why? I was outside with my dog. It was also, it should be stated, it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Wasn't able to say, well,
Well, it's not like there's crowds.
Right. We did not have like a parade going on. First off, everybody was locked in.
Right.
Police car stopped me. Asked for my ID.
Because it's a stop and ID state.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and they said, well, why don't you have your mask on? I said, well, up until now, I had no human contact. So now you're going to infect me. Thank you. That did not get met well. And I was given a written warning that I have to wear a mask by state mandate. And
okay.
And I have it framed at home.
I think I would have put it next to my toilet paper to use.
Well, the reason I did, the reason being is it was such an outlandish, un-American moment, and I'm fortunate that I have not been the brunt of many of them. Right? That was the very first honest taste of socialism that I've encountered. A state police enforcing a constitutional. Show me your papers. Why aren't you doing what we tell you to? Right? And honestly, me being me. For anybody who's known me more than 10 minutes knows that I tend not to hold back my opinion on things. And, I was not necessarily the most polite person with our firemen.
Well, no, I don't.
I mean, in truth, they are doing what they are told to do because that is their role as civil servant. They're doing what they're told to do. There were 2 police officers, a male and a female. The female was kind of almost apologetic. She's like, I'm sorry, but I have to ask your ID. And I have, the guy was completely indifferent. He actually pulled his mask down and lit a cigarette. And so the hypocrisy again, the left is nothing if not, full of hypocrites. But it was just a beautiful situation. I'm glad I got to experience for the sake. Truly, I'm glad I got to experience it because there were people that experienced much, much worse on a very severe degree here in America, but also, as you pointed out, China and other countries where it was really off the wall. It was crazy.
It was. I mean, you would have thought you were watching some. If you were watching it on TV, I'm sure it would have looked like some document. No, Nazi Germany on how they were like seriously. I mean, you saw videos on TikToks of them going down the streets in full hazmat gear, blowing stuff. There's not a person in sight. I know. I have real stories from people over there that it got away from it, that it's like, you didn't listen to take you. Never saw that.
No, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean,
they were gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
Saw them again. Perfectly healthy people. It's just, and people would be starving.
I would not doubt any of that in that particular regime. And the sad fact is, you have other regimes like North Korea, and nobody really knows what went on. You have
I
those.
think this was so asinine and so far gone. I wouldn't be surprised if North Korea was like, "You want us to do what? Yeah, we're not doing that." I mean, you look at the Amish community. Why weren't the Amish dropping dead by the thousands? But I'm native Ohioan too. We have one of the largest Amish communities in the country,
right up north.
And they were the healthiest people throughout the whole thing, and they never stopped. They never stopped living life normal. And so it's just an interesting.
Again, it is, and again, it just proves the point that there was more of a construct to this than what government media will ever admit. We know that. We'll see. God willing, come November 5th, a certain name will appear as Victor. And I do expect that he will look into how some of this stuff shut down, because
Right.
it's a big sore spot for a lot of Americans that literally our rights were taken by the government without any provocation, without any due process.
And there wasn't even compensation for seizure of private
No,
property by the guy. Because, in a sense, if you have a small business and you could not conform to the rules that they set with, distance, social distancing, and this and that, if it was, and I know some in my town that couldn't operate due to COVID. If the government comes along and says you cannot operate your business, that's government seizure of private property, and they were never compensated. So technically, the government should have been like, well, here's a check.
my younger
There you go.
brother has a small business in Ohio, and there was a lot of concern. He had shut down. I would have to check with him for X amount of time, but he had to shut down for X amount of weeks. And then when they started doing the essential service thing, well, his happens to be the trades. He does have plumbers on staff and things like that, and they do emergency repairs. So he was able to get people back to work.
Right.
But the amount of angst and concern that caused financially, and then there were certain things that the government put out as far as assistance to these small businesses that weren't even really voluntary. It was just like, yep, you're doing it. And now they owe a crazy amount of money back. Now that it's time to pay back the aid that they got. And there's a lot of craziness to it.
We'll
But
have to do another episode.
Absolutely.
Just a deep
So-
dive into COVID talk and stuff
so,
like that.
essentially, to wrap up, again, is it a big thing with RFK and Tulsi Gabbard? You bet your butt it is. It's a huge move forward for the movement back to America, back to the United
Americans,
States.
not Democrats. and
No. This
Republicans,
is a huge
America.
move forward for America as a whole.
Absolutely.
Are we done with the craziness from the socialist push? No, no. Matter of fact, it's going to start taking on a whole new element as we get closer.
And I think it's going to get uglier. It's going to be
Absolutely.
uglier for sure.
Absolutely. And, again, all I can say is thanks to all of them for doing what they do up there in the MAGA movement and RFK and Tulsi. They jeopardized family and livelihoods, as we all do to some degree when you're standing for the right, because the bad guys always seem to get away with everything.
Right.
We're the only ones sacrificing, but the sacrifice is definitely worth the outcomes when we win. And we only win with people that are willing to say, you know what? We need to be there to vote. We need to vote for the Constitution. We need to vote for the United States. And there's only one true candidate that's standing for it. So,
if our listeners, if anybody's made it this far in this episode, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be back with another one shortly.